Okay, so take 2 of part 2, because I guess I was having some issues. Hi, it's Carissa McNaught of Needle and Anchor Supply Company. I'm guessing I was having some problems. I think I accidentally put it as private. I don't know why it defaulted to that. I'll have to look into that and see why, because previously I never had to unclick that. But so I've already done a little bit. I'll bring you guys all up to speed. So I sewed the exterior panels together on one side. I added the grommet accent piece. I used glue. I glued down the seams. And I also top stitched at the bottom of the seam here. I spread it open and I top stitched it down so it would be nice and pretty. So it's nice and flat. So when I sew on the base, it'll be good. So right now I'm just waiting for the glue to dry so I can top stitch around the grommet accent piece. So while I was waiting for that to dry, I am sewing the lining. And I apologize that I didn't do the video right. I'm sorry. I'll have another side and we can show everything that I've done. But I was just bringing everybody up to speed. And I'll post the other video so you can still see that. I'll have to switch the maybe I can merge them together or something. Or maybe I'll just have 2 parts. That might be the easiest way to do that. So, and I'm just going to run over to my Facebook page real quick. Okay, so now it seems like everybody will be here. Yay! Oh, now it's not just me that's watching. Yay! Okay, so I apologize. I guess I was on a private video before. I'll change the settings and you guys can watch the beginning of the session. So part 2 has 2 parts. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm sewing the lining while I'm waiting for the grommet accent piece to stick on there. I put some glue. I use Fabri-Tac. So I'm going to do this really quick and work it back. Okay, so I did this wrong already. I was so focused on the video that okay, so what I need to do is I'm going to do a bigger seam allowance. And this will make it so that it's nice and tight within the exterior. So I reduced this to 75%, but I was using 1/4 inch of a seam allowance. Well, I'm going to do 1/2 inch. And this is the bottom of the lining. I'll show you in just a second. So I'm going to do 1/2 inch. And I'm going to make sure I leave a big enough turning hole because I didn't leave my pockets open. I'll be honest, I don't like turning through a pocket. And I should have lowered that. I don't like turning through a pocket. I don't like that it stresses the zipper. Fabric, I can like make an adjustment with. Like if I were to accidentally rip some stitches, I could take a deeper seam allowance and hide that. Whereas with a zipper, you're kind of... So what I did is I sewed both of these like with a weird angle. So, and it's shorter here, like the seam allowance is smaller here. That's because it's the top of the bag. So this will be the top of the bag and it has to match what the exterior is so that it can fit inside and match up the seams and stuff like that. But having it like this, now I'm going to do a base stitch to connect these two so that I can press it open. And actually I won't be able to press it open because of that. So I'm not going to do the base stitch, but trust me when I say that when when you go to sew this up, all you'll have to do is basically just go like this, and you'll be able to sew up your lining. And I'll make sure I show that when we get to that part after we've turned the bag. So it all makes sense in the end. Sometimes you just have to trust what is written and know that it'll work out, because I test my bags. I sew my bags. I do this. So I'm starting at the bottom, and I'm going to start with a 1/2 inch seam allowance. And then as I get to the top, I'm going to go down to 1/4 inch, probably the last inch or so. It's not technical. And then also by doing this, it's going to make the bag base, it's going to seem like it's not going to fit, but when I did mine, I pleated it a little bit. I just made it like made it have like pleats in it, and it worked just fine, and it looked pretty, and it fit really nice and snug. So I'm making my way to the 1/4 inch. There we go. And so I'll show you. All right. And I never trim my seam allowances, because I feel like when you trim your seam allowances, it's kind of like having a short haircut. So let's say you cut your hair to, 1/4 inch. You can't do anything with that. Like, it doesn't want to lay flat, depending on your hair. But generally speaking, it's going to just pop right back up. Okay, well, I feel like the same thing happens with fabric. So the bigger it is, like, I can go over and press this open, and it's easier to work with if it's a little bit bigger. And it's not adding any bulk to the bag. I mean, the bag isn't a bulky bag anyway. So it just makes it for a nicer finish, in my opinion. Do what you like, but that's why I write my patterns the way I write my patterns. Okay, so there's the lining. And I am going to go press this open, but I don't have my iron on yet. So let me plug that in. Hi, scuba chick. Yeah, I prefer the side or the bottom, but because the bottom is round, I'm not going to do it through the bottom. If it was like a box bottom and you have like a nice straight seam, I would do it through the bottom. And I honestly, it doesn't bother me to see a little bit of stitching. Or what you could do is leave the bottom or the side open and then burr through that hole, but also leave a pocket open so you could sew the side or the bottom closed on a different bag, the bottom. And then you close up your zipper pocket. So, and I might sneeze here for a second. I said in my other video, I have allergies. And allergies seem to be crazy right now. It's funny when I have to go grocery shopping because people look at me like, she's sneezing. I'm not sick. It's just allergies are crazy. And there's a lot of crazy stuff going on right now. I'm just pressing this really quick. I'm glad I'm not the only one watching my video now. I was feeling a little bit lonely. I was like, dang, nobody's watching me. I'm glad to know that I'm not by myself now. Okay, so for now the lining is done. I pressed open the seam. And see, if it would have been smaller, like 1/8 inch, it would not lay flat unless you just steam the crap out of it. Okay, so there's that. Now, we are going to go back to this. Now I need to top stitch around this. And that's why I didn't do both at the same time, like sew both sides, because then you're struggling with both of them. This way, at least one's going to look really nice. And I did kind of mess up. It looks like my fabric shifted a little bit. It's vinyl. So I'm going to have to trim that to make it even. Or when I sew it together, I'll just act like this is straight. And it'll work out because it usually does work out. I don't know if anybody noticed. So when I did this, the grommet accent pieces, you know, are shaped like that weird, almost like a heart shape. But underneath, you see the cutout? That was to make it not so bulky if people use like home decor fabric and stuff like that. It was, I think I thought that out pretty well. So, yay. I didn't want it to be super thick. So I need a really good foot to do the top stitching. And I wanted to just say again, thank you all for being here. I appreciate the support. I appreciate having you guys like in my life, really. I mean, I love doing this and I love being able to stay home and do what I love to do. So if anybody's wondering what this weird foot is, this is a velvet roller foot. I got it on Wawak or whatever it is. And it's supposed to be used over velvet, but it works awesome on vinyl and sticky fabrics and stuff like that. Yay! I'm so glad you guys are here. Okay, so where was I? I haven't actually had my coffee yet today. I'm a late riser. I'm a night owl, and sometimes I'm up until like 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, and then I go to bed. So if you don't ever see me until noon, sometimes that's why. It's just I have weird hours. But my family doesn't bug me in the middle of the night. So that's why I'm usually working in the middle of the night because it's just the easiest for me. So I'm going to see if I'm going to be able to use this foot because it's hard for me to keep track of where. Yeah, it's not going to work either. Well, darn it. Some of these feet I just do not like. Like, I like my skinny foot, but it puts too much pressure. And if I relieve the pressure, then it doesn't sew the bag right. So it's kind of, yeah. And then these zipper feet, they sit weird on the feed dog. So they kind of like shift off to the side. I don't like how they are. I guess I'm just really picky with when it comes to purse feet or bag feet, or not bag feet. When it comes to presser feet, I can't speak today. So guess I'm going to have to use this one and just kind of know exactly where it's going to land. Dang it. It's too big and I just need better feet. And I have one of these feet. It's a 1/4 inch or an 1/8 inch, but I want one smaller than an 1/8 of an inch. I want it where it's, I don't know, 1/16 of an inch or something. Somebody needs to design one. So I'm going to have to eyeball this one. And that's going to be fun. And I am going to start. I'm going to start on the side. I know that sounds really weird, but I figure if I start up at the top, people are going to see the top already. So then your eye is going to be drawn. If there is a boo-boo, it's going to be drawn to that anyway. So if I start somewhere random, it's less likely that somebody is going to see if I have a boo-boo. I could be wrong, but that's my thinking. Okay. So here we go. I am going to just have to keep my eye on this. And I'm going to go very, 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 very slow. And notice I did not backstitch. And I do not want to backstitch because I'm going to pull this out or pull it to the back and tie them off. Okay, so and if you do any manipulating, always make sure your needle is down. And I'm just going really slow just to make sure that I am keeping an eye on my seam allowance. I'm not saying it'll be perfect, but I'm at least keeping an eye on it. Okay, so we'll put this back over here out of the way. Oh, I might have made a little mistake there. I know, this is like watching paint dry, right? Hopefully I'm not too boring. Okay, I'm gonna make sure my needle is down and now I'm gonna straighten this up. Ooh, that looks pretty good. Don't get overconfident because overconfidence sometimes leads to, oh my gosh, I messed it up. And even I hold my breath when I'm sewing things. Nothing turns out perfect for everyone. I mean, if you're perfect, yeah, you're just not showing everybody your mistakes. Okay, so here I'm getting to the little tricky part. So I'm kind of hand cranking it. That's okay. Not forcing it. Okay, and I'm just making sure I'm maintaining the right seam allowance. And it looks like it's doing pretty good. So I'm going to straighten this out a little bit. And it looks like I can, nope, not yet. Okay, and I don't have to hand crank it now. Ooh, it went a little bit faster than I wanted it to, and it got stuck. And there we go. Oh, man, did I luck out. That actually came out really straight. And sometimes when I'm on video, things do not work the way I want them to work. Give me just a second and I'll show you the fruits of my labor. Okay, so I'm tying this in a square knot. And if you don't know how to do square knot, when you're tying it, you just have to pay attention to which hand is over which hand. So if it's left over right first, then you just put right over left for the second part of the knot. You just always do the opposite. And that's a square knot. There we go. And then what I do is I will tie these two knots together in a square knot. I know, crazy, right? And then I trim them and then I melt it with a little lighter. Boop. And I'll do that in just a second, but I'll show you top stitching. I think it turned out pretty good. There's no little loops or anything. Yes, I'm using a DDL 8700. And I love it. I love my machine. Okay, so I'm gonna melt those threads. And when you melt these threads, if you use a lighter, make sure that you're only lighting the threads. Oh, there we go. So I melted the threads. They're nice and compact. Okay, so here comes the hard part. Not really hard. It's not hard. It will be just a little bit more of a challenge. So like I said in the first video, when I was putting together, and I will post that later, when I'm putting this together, I'm making sure that the bottom band matches up. And that is my main, that's where I'm going to make sure that everything lines up. Everything else I can either trim or adjust or whatever, but you want where the bottom band meets on the sides to be like almost perfect. So I'm trying to find a tighter clip, because the tighter the clip, it's easier. So it's going to feel a little weird right now. And I'm not changing out my presser foot because I'm just sewing a regular stitch length, because we're going to have to glue right now. And I'm using I used a little bit bigger of a seam allowance than the 1/4 of an inch because I needed to lay flat. Actually, that might cause a problem for my lining, so I might have to go back and fix my lining. But I think my lining is good because I did a really nice long or big seam allowance. And remember, this is small at 75%. So I printed it at 75% because I wanted to see if it worked out really well, and it's adorable. Okay, so this will be the fun part right here. So what I'm going to have to do is I have to flatten this seam out. And I'm going to have to go in and sew this down flat. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to have to manipulate my bag a little bit. Looks like I have a nice thread sticking out there, so I'm going to have to take care of that in a little bit. And so I'm flattening out the seam allowance at the bottom. And then I'm going to top stitch it so it's down. So I need to increase my stitch length. And it'll be a little bit more difficult just because it's a tube right now. But that's okay. You just move your bag out of the way. You know, you just pinch it and like push it out of the way. And I use Decaville Light on mine, and it's very bendy. But I made sure that I waited the 30 minutes after I adhered it, so it should be good. It won't pull away. Okay, and I need to get the proper seam allowance and make sure that that's flat. I need to get my hump jumper. I know it's a lot going on here. Okay. And if I could get the camera in here right now so you could see, I would. Let's see if I can. Yeah, I don't know if it's gonna. Maybe if I turn on that. No. I thought maybe it would increase. What if I turn that off? Is that better? It's harder for me to sew, but I can see, so I'm okay. Okay, so I need to make sure that I don't sew through the other side. Oh, it did not want to move. There we go. Let's go. Okay. Yeah, it's not moving. There we go. Now, when I pivot, I'm going to pivot where my top band is sewn to the exterior. And I'm going to make sure it catches that bottom thread. Yeah, I can't see. I got to turn this on. And then it's probably going to be, I think it was 2.5 stitches before. And I'm going to kind of manipulate it, you know, like lift the presser foot a little bit and then put it where I need it to go. And then I'm going to turn it around. I pivoted it again. And now I'm going to top stitch back down. And this is going to make that nice and flat. Okay. And I didn't backstitch on either one of those, so I'm just going to tie these together. Excuse me. All right. Now I'm going to glue this down to keep that down. A marking pen to top stitch? I'm sure I could, but I don't have one that just wipes away. I should probably get one of those leather ones. I know they just wipe right away, but I don't have one. I guess I'm weird because I actually like the challenge of trying to do it. If that makes sense. I always do things the hard way. I don't usually draw out my seam allowances. Okay, so I have a little glue booger on there. Paper towels are a must in my sewing room. Okay, so now I'm letting that tack up a little bit, and I am going to, I said this in the other video, that, you know, I can't keep putting my fingers on each spot to make it lay flat. So what I do is I get a ruler and I flatten it that way. So then I can put my hand across all areas, you know, and flatten it out because it's something that's taking up more space. Square inches. Yeah, I don't have a marking pen. And I don't, is it Ela or Isla? The delicate area, you mean down at the bottom? Or on the grommet accent piece? Either way, yeah, you could use one as long as it comes off. I mean, use what you need to. I mean, that's definitely Isla. Okay. It's so pretty. Okay, so I'm going to let that dry. Probably about 5 minutes until I can release the pressure, and then I'll just leave it for, you know, a minute or two, just a little bit longer. And then I'll add the grommet accent piece. And then we have to wait for that to dry too. So we're going to kind of go and do different things while I'm waiting for those steps to happen. So right now I'm going to do the lining base. Okay, so the bottom, we got to make sure that make sure you're doing the bottom. This is the bottom. And I did not mark on my pieces, bad me. So I'm going to fold this in half. And I just drew a little line. I do a little line. And then I'll fold these in half. And draw a little line. Draw a little line. There we go. And then these, I need to make sure I know where the center is. So there's that. And if I was smart, I would have transferred, I would have marked it on my pattern piece and then put it on here, but that's all right, because sometimes you don't sew right. So that probably might not have totally matched up anyway. It's probably easier to do it this way anyway. And I need to relieve pressure on that. So there's that. So because I did that 90, this didn't want to open up, so I just trimmed it really quick there. So this spreads it open. That makes sense. So I just clipped right next to the stitches to open that up. So I'm going to match. So for the lining, it is going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to seem like the base is really huge, and it's okay. I knew that when I wrote the pattern. But I'm going to make sure my straight edges are totally lined up. And then on the curved edges, I'll just pucker it and it'll look really pretty no matter what. I mean, you really can't mess it up. You just ease it in however it fits. So I like to see I'm matching up the straight edges right now. And so you match up all 4 points and then you go from there. And then I work my way out from the center to the sides. Okay, so there's that. Okay, so I am going to start working my way towards this side piece. The exterior gets done a little bit different. It should pop right in for the exterior. But see, I'm already starting to do the straight edges of the lining, and it's starting to pucker a little on the ends, which is fine. I'm just going to ease those in and just don't make them all in one spot. You know, you just kind of ease it in evenly, if that makes sense. And then when you sew it, it'll just be nice and pleated. It'll be really pretty from the inside, and it'll fit nice and tight. So there's that. Hopefully that all made sense. I'll show you all in just a second. And remember, even if it looks a little like puckery on the edges, you're going to be sewing it inside, like at a deeper seam allowance also. So now I'm going to do this. And I usually use a lot of clips. So in my pattern, I write that I baste it on first. And when I'm basting, obviously I'm taking the clips off. And then I go back and then I sew it again at the regular seam allowance. When I basted at, I'm sorry, a smaller seam allowance. I have not had my brain juice yet today. I had like a sip. And it's cold brew coffee, so it's sitting in the refrigerator right now. Okay. Yes, I call it brain juice. Because it helps me think. Brain no worky without it. Okay. So it's a lot of clips. But remember, it's worth it. Okay, so it's a lot of clips, and the straight edges are nice and even, but then it gets a little puckery on the ends, and that'll be fine because look, when it's done, it'll be nice and pretty. You won't even know. It's all on purpose. Okay, so I'm going to sew this. Actually, while we're doing that, before I sew the lining, we're going to put the grommet accent piece on here really quick. And it's going to be really hard. And maybe I can get my light over here to help. So I need... Okay, so the grommet accent piece. So the way I did it before is I centered it. And this is going to be hard. I made sure I eyeball it usually. And I want to make sure I leave enough room for my seam allowance and to top stitch around when you do the bag base, or when you sew the bag together. So I need to go down a little bit further, and I don't have anything heavy that I can get in there. But what I did before, actually, I have a smaller candle. Let me see. Ooh, I do have a smaller candle. Okay, so I have a smaller candle. I know it's real technical in my sewing room. I'm going to hold down one side and put glue on this other side. You want to make sure it's at least somewhat close to the edge, and you can sew through fabric tack, just so you know. Oh. It's like ectoplasm. Yeah. Okay. I got slimed. Okay, so I'm going to make sure that's tacked down a little bit. Got to be careful of the strings on fabric tack, but I love it. And then I'm going to move this candle over. I know it's not really... I don't know what happened to my light. The sunlight went away. Basically, here, let's see if I can... I want to... So I'm centering it. You can see that it's centered. And I'm gluing it down. I really apologize for the lighting. It is crappy weather. Yesterday it was cold, and then today, all of a sudden, we have flies and mosquitoes. It's a really weird year. And I got glue on my bag. And I don't know if there's anything I can do about that. Try a little smidge of that worked perfect. Crap. That just made it worse. Well, darn it. If I just rub it with my finger a little bit, it'll... Oh, that worked. Perfect. Yay. And it sounds weird, but I just put lotion on my finger and I rubbed it in the spot and it's perfect. You can't even see where I did that. Okay, so now I need to... It's not fully glued down, but it's glued down enough that it won't move when I top stitch it. So now we can wait for that to dry. Sure, you could put DST underneath it. You could totally do that. It's just to keep it down. I don't like using double stick tape. My machine doesn't like it. I don't know if it's because I don't sew fast enough and it doesn't get oiled as much. It gets oiled, but it doesn't get oiled as much. So I don't know. It just always sticks to the needle and I don't like it. So I don't use it. But as long as you kept it out of, it's basically just to keep it tacked down. So you could use whatever you prefer to keep it tacked down. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the lining while we're waiting for this to dry. And I think I need to get a better angle for my camera from now on. I'm going to see if maybe having this light on over here helps. I don't think it really mattered. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I need different... I need a different foot. And I'm going to be... Even though I'm basting, I can use either a regular stitch length or I can use a bigger stitch length. And make sure your pockets are out of the way. You don't want to sew through your pockets. So if you need to, clip them up to the top to keep them out of the way. There, see, I clipped it totally out of the way. And I am going to just find a spot and start sewing. Now, when I do the regular stitch length, I'm going to do it at 1/2 inch, but for now I'm going to do it at 1/4 inch. Wait. Yes, 1/4 inch. I had to think about that. Normally, I do it between 1/8, but it doesn't really matter. You just want to do it so that you are removing your clips so that when you go back around the second time, then you can sew your regular stitch, your seam allowance. I'm telling you, the brain's not working. And I'm using a stiletto so that if I come up to one of those puckers, I can just kind of smash it in the middle and make sure it's flat. That's all you want to do. You can sew right over it. If it pleats, it's okay because that's what it's supposed to do. You just want to make sure that your seam allowance is good. And what you could do is you could pull your clips out to the very edge where you can sew right next to them, and then you don't have to move them at all if you want. And then you can move them after you sew past them. This is just how I do it. You can do it, obviously, when I write things like double stitch tape or double stick tape or, Fabri-Tac glue. If you have a better way of doing something or you want to do it differently, by all means, you can totally do that. The purpose of things is, like getting the grommet accent piece. You want to just make sure it's stable when you're putting it on there. You don't want to just put it on there with nothing underneath it and then you end up sewing it on wrong. You want to tack it down and get it, you know, on there the right way. So, however, whatever products you like to use, go for it. Mine are just suggestions. Okay, this will be much easier to sew once these clips are out of the way. And I know some people use like staples. I've done that before, but once I got a machine that could handle bag making and like moving things around and it didn't have like very little power, I didn't have to worry about stapling as much. Like I just don't have that issue. The thing with sewing bag bases on is you have to go slow. You can't go fast. I'm going fast because it's a straight shot right now. When I get to these corners, yeah, it's going to be slow because I have a ton of clips. But if I sew it right when I'm basting it, then I can whiz through on that second pass that I do. I hope all that made sense and I'm not just blabbering on by myself, because I feel like I'm talking to myself, and we've all been there the past couple weeks, right? Yeah, I think I might need to move my table. I could do that. Or I'm going to put it up higher so it can look straight down. I'm going to work on that. So that you guys can see more of the hands-on instead of, oh, she just sewed that and no, now she's going to show us. Although that's helpful, I'm sure, too. Because sometimes it's just a matter of you're reading my pattern and it makes sense a little bit, but then when I'm doing it and I'm showing it, it comes across a little bit different when it's in spoken word, I'm sure. Okay, so I'm almost back to where I started. And now I have no clips in the way and I can go with a bigger seam allowance. I'm going to lower my stitch length and there we go. It's just so much easier. Once you have those clips out of the way, then you can just kind of move it around, do what you want. And this seam allowance I will trim. Most things I don't, but this one I will actually trim. And I'm almost done. And there we go. I came around and it's done. All right, so here's where, so you can see I started and the seam allowance is down here is at 1/4 of an inch. And then the inside one is at 1/2 inch. And here's what it looks like on that side. And there's no weird puckers. And it turned out perfect. I mean, look. You can see where I did it at a 1/2 inch. There's no weird little blips or anything. One tiny little one. One little tiny one. And you know what? When I look inside, I don't even see it. So we're good. That's good. And now I'm going to trim that down. The best combos are with yourself. Well, I don't know about that. But I do agree with myself a lot. And I'm just trimming this off. Trimming this off. And I think I'm going to go back over my stitches here. Oh, no, I did a really good job when I backstitched. So there we go. There's the lining. The lining is all ready to go. All right, and now I can go to top stitching that other grommet piece. You know, what's funny is I made this at 75%, so my phone will kind of stick out of it. Because I wrote it so that it was like the perfect height for most phones. But that's all right, it'll still look good. Oh, and you know what? I should have probably done the magnet too. Well, poo. We'll just have to do it around the pockets. Okay. We're going to sew the grommet accent piece right now. I'm going to do the grommets in a later video because I want to try my press. I got a new press from Cam Snaps, and I want to see if one of my things works. So my like my press plates, and then I have the dies. So I want to see if those dies from Amazon work good with cutting. I'm going to try it on some scrap fabric before I do a video for it. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, so now we have to top stitch around this one. I'm not going to lie, it's going to be a little bit more difficult because it's tight quarters in there now. But we got this, right? Okay, so I need to put my Teflon non-stick presser foot on. And I'm going to start at the bottom again. And that's for two reasons. Like the same thing I said before, because if I mess up, it's at the bottom and it's less likely somebody's going to like their eye is going to go towards it. But also if I start at the bottom for the second grommet accent piece, I'm already starting where it's the hardest. So when I come back around, you know what I mean? I'm already like doing the hard part first. So that's also why I'm doing it that way. So here we go. Gonna kind of push this out of the way. Don't be afraid to mush down your bag a little bit. See, I'm kind of mushing it down. What I'm doing is I'm going like this. So I'm exposing the grommet accent piece. I feel like I have too much light on that you guys can't see. It's like almost like blinded. Wonder if I... Okay. It's not really easy for me to see. Maybe if I turn... That helps a little bit. I can see. Hopefully that helps you guys. Okay, so I need to get my needle down. I need to make sure my stitch length is longer. Top stitch length. And I'm going to go slow, slow, slow. Slow, 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 slow. And you want to make sure that you keep the bag out of your way. Like you don't want to sew through 2 layers. Okay, so I need to pivot a little bit and then hand crank, and then pivot a little bit and hand crank. Kind of do the 2 together. It's kind of what I imagine free motion quilting to be kind of like, because you're kind of manipulating where that stitch is going to go. Okay, so and I'm just keeping an eye on this. No, 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 no. Actually, it's turning out pretty good. So whatever I'm doing good. So I'm just hand cranking and moving with my left hand cranking with my right and moving the bag with my left. And then now I can kind of straighten it out. Maybe 1 or 2 more stitches. There we go. All right. And go slow. No pedal to the metal on this. Oh, I might have done a little bit bigger of a seam allowance there. I might have messed it up. It's a little tiny up at the top, but it's straight. So that's what I'm going to focus on the positive there. And I only have a little bit left to do. Hand crank, turn, hand crank, turn. So after this, we will add the bag base, and I'm going to sew the bag together, and then I will do the purse strap, and I will do the grommets in a separate video just because I want to. I'll show you the grommets I'm using. They're a grommet and a bag strap, a connector, all in one. When I kind of cut it tight there, I kind of messed this one up a little bit. Like I said, I never said I was perfect, but I can't go back and take this out, so it is what it is. And you know what? This is for me anyway. So, and it is difficult because I made it 75%. So don't let this scare you, because if you just sew it, if you print it at 100%, either the small or the large, you shouldn't have any problems. I just wanted to make one tinier. I wanted to see if it worked. Because not all bag patterns work well if you print them at just a smaller percentage. Because some things are proportionate a certain way, and like you have to put it down a certain way and so many inches, and if you go and reduce the size, you have to reduce all of that, and sometimes it just doesn't look right. So the more complex a pattern is, I do not recommend reducing. If it's a simple tote bag, that's one thing. Okay, so I need to melt those. Okay, did that. And I gotta flip this out so you guys can see it. which means I gotta undo this. Not undo it, but you know what I mean, like kind of squish it up a little bit. That's all right, because even though I'm using vinyl, what I do is I heat up my ironing board and then I press this onto the ironing board. So it looks a little messed up right now, but it'll be all pretty later. Okay, so this is the one I just did. And I kind of did mess up there on the end a little bit. And it's tinier up here. But it's all right. Okay, so there's that. Well, now I got to flip this back around so I can do the bag base. Let's see. So there's 7 of us here watching. 7. All right. Bag base. Okay. And for this one, I actually use Peltex. And the reason for that is because I actually like Peltex for bag bases. I tried Decaville Heavy, and it is just not firm enough. So I like my purses to be like hard on the bottom, like hard. So that's why I use Peltex on mine. Obviously, do what you prefer. Okay, this feels a little tight. And I think it's because I did a little bit bigger of a seam allowance, so that's going to be fun. I forgot about that on the sides. I made it a little bit bigger. So it's going to be a little tight because my Peltex. Okay. And I made the Peltex a little bit smaller than the seam allowance. I made it 1/2 inch instead of 3/8 of an inch so that it would be nice and snug. And remember when I did the bottom, when I did the sides, I kind of did a little bit bigger of a seam allowance than I should have. So that's where my problem is right now. But it'll all work out because there is that little bit of leeway, and so hopefully if it really looks like it's bubbling, I can just go and trim some of my Peltex. I just have to make sure I cut it straight. But that is my error. I did that to myself. It is not written wrong. It's user error. Okay, so I need to trim my Peltex. So bag base coming out. Easy peasy. I need to find my scissors. Just need to peel it away a little bit. So I just need to make sure that I'm trimming it. Actually, I could probably trim it a little bit on the edges here too. I'm just making sure I'm trimming it straight. And even. and not trimming my vinyl. Note to all of you, print the pattern the way it is, 100%. Unless you're really confident that you can do it smaller. Because everything is mathed out the way it is for a reason. Okay, and this, it's kind of glued down here, so I got to be careful so that I don't cut my fabric. I still don't think 2 layers of Decaville Heavy would be near as much as sturdy as Peltex. Okay, so I trimmed it even. Yay. Making sure I'm putting it on the right spot. And we're going to go for take 2. So I'm matching up the 4 points first. Always do that. So has anybody seen I don't know if I want to bring this up. Tiger King. If you have watched it, it is crazy. There are some crazy ass people out there. And it's like a train wreck and you can't look away. Okay, so I'm going to do that. Oh, this is looking much better this time. I hear a dog outside. We have coyotes where we are, and it actually kind of sounded like a coyote, but I was like, why during the day? Yeah, let's just say it is a train wreck, and you won't be able to look away when you do watch it. Okay, this fits much better this time. So I'm going to do the same thing I did with my lining. I'm going to, and this one, I'm using my Skinny Foot. This one, a Skinny Presser Foot. And I'm going to just sew it on. And then I'll go back around and then sew real snug up against the Peltex. So this is basically just to get the 2 pieces together. That's my main goal right now. And I always use a stiletto to basically keep the 2 pieces together. And I really wish I could show you guys more of this. I do have a video in my group showing how I do my bag bases. And in the future, I will do another one here on my YouTube. And it'll be over my shoulder, or, you know, it'll be so that you guys can see me actually sewing it. And also, when I do the bag bases like this, especially for the exterior, let's say I mess up and I have a little bit of a oopsie, right? Because I'm doing it at a smaller seam allowance, I can actually go and pull out that stitch and ease that in and fix it before I get back over to my regular seam allowance. It's kind of like insurance, you know, like bag making insurance. I'm giving myself, you know, a handicap basically, and I can fix it. I mean, think about it. We don't work for Louis Vuitton or Kate Spade or anything. So until we do, you know, we gotta do what makes our skills better. See, I kind of had a little issue there, but that's all right. Oh, see? Now I can straighten it out. Perfect. So it won't be an issue at all. I won't even have to fix anything. But it could have been. But I'm going slow. And I'm just easing. Oop. Went a little fast. Okay, and now I'm going to sew right up against my Peltex with a regular seam allowance that I should be using. Just keep it consistent and don't keep an eye on your needle. If you have problems with that, do not look at your needle. Always look at what your reference point is for sewing your seam, using a seam allowance. That is probably the number one tip I would say for sewing in a straight line. You want to not look at your needle. For anybody that's new. I hope I'm not just poking holes. I didn't know if I was going to be running out of bobbin thread. Yeah. Okay, and I know some people like to sew the bag base with the bag upright. I do not like doing that. I feel like that's counterproductive. Obviously, if that works for you, keep doing it. It just seems difficult to make this get sewn right if you're flattening out the side of the bag. It like flares out weird. Okay, and I'm done. And all right, so there is my bag base, and because it's such a small seam allowance, I might actually, I think I'm going to leave it. I'm not going to trim it because there's not a whole lot to trim. It'll just fold right over the thing. So, and I'm going to leave it like this I'm not going to flip it out a million times. I'm going to do the lining inside of the exterior. I know, it's usually the other way around. Don't freak out. As long as you have right sides together, you can do it however you want. So you just want to make sure you're putting right sides together. And see, when I close this up later, where I did that seam, the way I did it, all I'm going to have to do is go like that, and it makes it nice and flat. So I'm going to drop this in and match up all my sides. Tracy, I am in Round Lake. So Fox Lake area, east of Rockford and west of Waukegan. So almost in Wisconsin, and we're western Lake County. We're close to McHenry. Hopefully that helps. I know where Batavia is. My sister used to live there. Actually, she lived in Geneva, but Geneva, Batavia, it's all pretty much the same. And her in-laws live in, I want to say Mills Creek. The big, huge houses over there. And now it's getting sunny. Some weird ass weather. Okay, and I'm just matching these up. I only matched up the sides and just I kind of pull it and just make sure that everything fits, and it is. So sometimes I'll find a middle spot and then pinch it right there and just clip away. Clip, clip, clip. All right, now I get to, and I won't be sewing this, I won't be trimming this either, so I just sew around and then there we go. Exactly. Cherry, yeah, that cherry catnaps. I agree. I always wondered why. I was like, why is the exterior going in the lining? It just doesn't make sense. That's like putting sweatpants over, like putting leggings over sweatpants. It just isn't going to work. So as long as they're right sides together, that key point, that's all that matters. And I'm going to be manipulating the bag anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and, I need to do this. I feel like this video is taking forever. I think because I need coffee. So I'm just sewing it from the inside, and I'm just going to make sure that I am pulling this aside, and I'll start sewing, and then as I get to each spot, I'll just pull my bag to the side so I don't sew through, the other side of the bag at the same time. So do it however it works for you. I am going to make sure I have to make sure I keep the right seam allowance this time, because of the grommet accent pieces. Those are important. You don't want to make it too big, because then you'll get too close to those, and then when you do your top stitch later, it's going to look weird. And yes, Tracy, it is beautiful up here. I just wish we could go out and enjoy it. Maybe next week, if it's warmer, I can go out and take pictures and stuff like that. I wanted to go over to one of the preserves that we have around here and take some photos and stuff like that. So hopefully people aren't out, so I can go out. You know, social distance, which is fine, as long as they're not like right next to me. Okay. And I'm not doing this twice. Sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. It's so tiny, I'm not for this one. If it was a bigger bag, I might. But when I say twice, I mean like the bag base. I am not a fast sewer by any means. I like to take my time and think about all the details and how they end up looking. Okay, so oh, it's falling off. My Decaville is coming off on the little tiny part, but I can get it back on. All right, I finally made it back here. I'm not going to worry about that. It'll go back on. Okay, so now I get to turn through my teeny little tiny hole. Let's hope it works. I am not trimming anything. It'll give it a nice edge to top stitch. Okay, so I'm just pushing. Oh, that's going to be fun. It's all crunchy sounding. I used another interfacing that I had on top of the Peltex, and it's something that Walmart actually accidentally sent me, and I kept it because I paid for it. So I was like, let me try this out. And I'm not loving it. I kind of wish I would have sent it back. It's the Pellin 520. I think it's meant for hats and stuff like that. So I'll find something to use it in, but not going to use it in bags anymore. Because I don't like it. And this is... Okay. She might need an episiotomy. Okay, so okay. All right. And honestly, this bag, if you wanted to do a drop-in, you could totally do a drop-in lining for this. It's not written in the pattern that way, but you know you could do that. Okay. I am going to go warm up my iron because I know it did the auto shut off, and I'm going to need to steam this thing. because the base looks like butt. Okay. Okay, there's that. That's going on. Okay, so I'm actually not going to sew up the lining just yet. I'm going to wait until after I press this. I'm just trying to fix it before I go over and press it and stuff like that. Because the bottom looks weird to me. It's probably because I trimmed it a little bit and I need to warm this up a little bit. Okay, I'm steaming up my ironing board, getting it really hot, nice and steamy. I'm filling my iron with some water. Get that going. I actually like living in northern Illinois. Crap, I forgot the snap. So no, I won't be using the snap, I guess. Normally I would put that in. I forgot. The good thing is it's 75% of the bag, the small, so it shouldn't gap very much. It's basically going to be the same as this size because this is 75% also. And yes, the snap should be here and I could add it, but I don't. Doing it after the fact is going to be much harder. It's probably just easier for me to leave it and not have it. I still have to do the strap for this one. And that is actually a gift for someone, and I need to finish that. Maybe I'll do that tonight. So I won't be doing the snap. Oops. Should have done that. Should have done that before I sewed the two pieces together. Okay. See, I make mistakes. What I do is I steam up my ironing board and then I press the bag onto the steamy area, and I don't actually have to iron, my vinyl. Oh, can't believe I forgot the snap. That stinks. I'm over here pressing. Sorry, I'm getting the bag all nice and pretty. Oh, that's nice and hot. Can't believe I forgot it. Ha! When doing this, if you need to use oven mitts, use them. I'm not. That's why I'm burning my fingers accidentally. Almost done. Okay. That's all right. It's okay if I forgot the snap though. I mean, it's so tiny. It's not going to be a big deal. So I did have a couple hiccups in my my base, but I think it's because I messed up sewing, and that was my fault. By no means is it written in the pattern like I promise yours will come out right. It's just mine. I had to manipulate the bottom a little bit. So I do have a couple little blips, and I could go back in and sew those, and I might actually do that, but I want to finish this and it's for me. So based on my lack of patience, I'm just going to use it the way it is. Normally, I'm telling you, if I was to sell this or give it to someone, I would make sure it's perfect. If I went back in and sewed it up close to the Peltex again, I could fix all those little things. But here's what it's going to look like. And gonna I'm actually debating now whether I should fix that. So then I'll top stitch here and that'll be good. It's okay. Yeah, I don't know. Because I'm not picky. Honestly, I feel like the Peltex just needs to come out completely. And that just isn't going to happen. So I don't know if I'm going to get it any better than it is right now. That's what I'm debating. I just should not have made the seam bigger. It would fit better. So I feel like sometimes when you like try to perfect things, you end up making them worse. And I am afraid that's going to happen. And I would rather just deal with it the way it is now because it's my bag. That it won't bother me. If I were selling it, yes, it would bother me. And actually, maybe if I just trim, maybe I will trim. I'm going to try that. Without sewing anything again. It's 2. Goodness. Is everybody okay with me doing the strap and the grommets later together? Because I'll be honest, Mother Nature is calling and I'm really, I'm getting tired actually. So is it okay if I do the strap and the grommets later? The purse strap? Is everybody okay with that? Perfect. I'm going to trim the bag base and I'm going to top stitch the bag. And then this will be the end of this. So I guess it'll be 3 parts, which is fine. And part 2 was 2 parts, remember? So this is going to be fun. I'm manipulating this out again. And basically making the baby go back in. That's never fun. Crap. Well, at least you guys are seeing that I make mistakes too. Okay. I'm only doing that there. So I'm just going to make sure that I don't cut anything accidentally. I just need to and I had the little blips on the ends. Maybe I'm going for it, ladies. I'm going for it. I'm going to do it again. I'm just going to sew it a little bit tighter and then trim. I already turned it out, so I might as well just do it. This stinks. Okay. I'm going to start on the ends and I'm going to sew it maybe in 4 sections and focus on the areas that I know that I had some little oopsies. Okay, so right there. Okay. I'm just making sure I'm doing it really tight up against the Peltex. There we go. And I'm almost back to where I started, and then I can trim and redo this. Okay. Okay, I fixed it. Hopefully it looks better. And I'm trimming my seam allowance. Okay. Fingers crossed, ladies. Fingers crossed. Okay. My Decaville is coming off, but I can get that back on. Kind of a pain. Oh my goodness. If this turns out amazing, I am going to be so happy. Okay, got almost all of it out. Okay, come on. Come on. Something fell off. Nope, nothing fell off. Okay. Okay, I gotta go press it again, ladies. I'm gonna go press it. And oh my gosh. I'm still here, ladies. I'm just pressing. Pressing. Okay, so okay. Almost done, ladies. Almost done. Yeah, I think this looks better. Sorry, I'm so quiet. Ugh. All right. Be over in just a minute. Just pressing it. Make it look nice and pretty. I'm actually glad I did that. Like I went back and fixed it. So much happier. Oh, that looks so much better. Okay, so I think it looks so much better. I need to do a little bit more pressing, but I didn't want to be away from the camera too long. But I think it looks awesome. So I'm actually going to end it right here. I'm not going to even top stitch this right now. I will top stitch this and do the grommets the strap and sewing up the turning hole in the next video. And I'm not going to put any pins on, or I mean no clips on this because I don't want it to leave marks or anything. I'm going to aim for tomorrow for the video. But don't be surprised if it's Friday when it happens, okay? I'm sorry it's taking so long, but we will get through this, and I think it turned out awesome though. Like, it looks so cute. Okay, real quick though, before I go, I'm gonna actually show you the grommets I'm gonna use. So the grommets I'm using are one of these so there's two parts to this, and then there's a strap connector that goes on it, that goes through there, and it gets screwed on, or it goes in the hole, or I don't know how that'll. I actually don't know how that works, so we're gonna see how that works really quick. I have not used these before, so how do you get that in there? So it goes like this, and then goes like I actually don't know. So I guess it's good that I don't know. I need to reach out to Ning. Ning Bags is where I got this. And I've never used these before. So it looks like you... I don't know. Because there's no way that that's going to stick. See? It would... So I don't know how that works because that no worky. I don't know. I need to reach out to Ning Bags. I know she has tutorials, but the tutorial is missing some of the photos, so maybe she can get those posted up, because I need to see how these go together before I can even put them on. So I guess that'll be it. I'm going to call it quits for today. Thank you for joining me. There will be a part 3, either tomorrow or Friday. You know what? I'm just going to say it's on Friday because I have some stuff I got to do, and I'm going to try to do the pocket supplement if anybody had remembered seeing that. So I'm going to finish that up so that you guys can get that, and then I can work on the videos for that after the fact. Well, no, because I have to do the videos for them first. So maybe I'll be doing those tomorrow. Thank you, ladies, for joining me. Bye. Have a good day. I'm ending the video. Part 3 will be on Friday, and I will announce the time.